Hello and welcome back, guys. We're now starting a new story, The Hero We Need, written by Kyodon. You can find author's profile link in the description. Let's begin. Some people would say that not everyone is created equal. In a world where people got random superpowers that ranged from extremely powerful to completely useless, and in a world where sometimes your dreams, status, and worth can be decided by these powers, it's easy to see why. And for someone like Izuku Midoriya, who had no quirk, it seemed like he was destined for an insignificant life. He was picked on day after day. His former best friends would call him Deku. Until his mother heard of this and punished him for it. But that didn't stop him. He found a new name for him. Komori. The word for bat. Because much like a bat, Izuku lacked something important. And for years people treated him like trash, and he just let them. Every day his dream of becoming a hero seemed more and more impossible. Then one day, something happened that would change his life forever. That terrible day. 7-year-old Izuku Midoriya walked home, battered and bruised, from school. Another day, another beating. Bakugo had been picking on another student and of course, Izuku had to get involved. When he got home he was greeted by his mother. But something was wrong. She rushed him inside and closed the door. "Izuku, I need you to go to Mitsuki's right now," she said. Her tone was rapid and she looked panicked. "Mom, is everything okay?" Izuku asked, concerned by his mother's strange behavior. "Why, yes." Inko lied. "I just need you to dash, knock knock." Inko froze for a moment, then she quickly picked up Izuku and put him in the closet. "I need you to stay here, and stay quiet," Inko whispered. "Promise me you'll do that." Izuku nodded. Knock knock knock. Inko swiftly closed the closet and turned to face the door. Knock knock knock. Crash. Izuku heard the door being kicked open. "Did you think you could hide from me?" he heard someone say. Summoning all his will, Izuku cracked the door open, just enough that he could see what was going on. To his shock, the person that had broken into the house was Frightening Bolt. Or just Bolt for short. A minor pro hero. "Please, I didn't tell anyone," Inko said, trembling in fear. "Please don't." Bolt slapped Inko down to the floor. "Like that matters," he said. "You saw. And since you're too fat for me to make any money off of, then you need to die." Bolt then pulled out a gun from his belt. Fear filled Izuku's body. He wanted more than anything to go and help his mother. But his legs refused to move. "You see, if I used my quirk people might suspect me," Bolt said. "But with this, no one will ever know." Please, you're a hero. You're supposed to help people," Inko begged. Bolt smiled. "I am helping someone. Myself." Bang. Izuku looked on, with shock and horror as his mother went limp. So many emotions clashed inside of him, too many for him to process. So he went numb. Everything was a blur. Bolt left, the police came and took him out of the closet. They asked him a few questions and were barely able to get a despondent answer from the boy. All he could see and hear was the sight of his mother's body and the sound of the gun. "He seems to be out of it, sir," one of the police officers said. "You would be too if you just saw your mom die," the chief said. "Anyway, we found his dad. Some big shot in America. Then let's send the kid to him," a detective said. A week later in America, Izuku was riding in a black limousine. The car was built so no one could see him. After the ride, Izuku was rushed into what looked like a fancy apartment building. He was surrounded by large bodyguards, making it impossible for anyone to see him. He was brought into the elevator and was brought up to one of the higher floors. After about a minute of riding in the elevator, they had arrived. The apartment of Hisashi Midoriya was not what you thought when you pictured an apartment. The whole place was huge and fancy looking. It looked like the typical place any business person would live. At any other time if you told Izuku he would be seeing his father he would be infuriated. He had always hated his father for abandoning his mother. But now he just felt solemn. The man himself walked in. "Izuku," he said with fake excitement. Come in, come in. Guards, you're free to go." The guards left but Izuku stayed where he was, staring at the ground. Hisashi sighed and dropped the act. "You're already F in the head, huh?" Izuku said nothing and Hisashi slicked back his hair in frustration. "Alright, let's talk," he said. Hisashi brought Izuku into his office and sat him down in front of his desk. "So," Hisashi said sitting down. "I'm going to get the point. You don't like me, do you?" Izuku said nothing. He just looked up at his father. And the look in his eyes gave Hisashi his answer. "Alright then, well then it's a good thing you won't have to deal with me for long," Hisashi said. "You see, having a quirkless son might cause some complications for my company. So to get rid of those complications I have an offer for you." Izuku showed slight interest. "You see, sending you to an orphanage or just simply abandoning you would cause even more complications if anyone found out about you. So the offer is I will give you as much money as you need to do, whatever it is you want, go anywhere you want." Hisashi continued. "The only thing we need from you is to make sure no one finds out about you being my son." "Deal," Izuku said instantly. As long as he got to be away from his father. Hisashi smiled. "Good, good. Well, a few things. First, take this." He handed Izuku a phone. "This will be your way of contacting me," he said. "It has a tracking device and will notify me if it gets destroyed so I can give you a replacement. Next up, take this." He gave Izuku a card. "This will give you all the money you need. And lastly, we need to change your name." Izuku's gave him a confused look. "You can't have any connection to me whatsoever. So we need to give you a fake name," Hisashi said. There was a pause, then Izuku said. "Komori, Deku," he said. Hisashi gave him a confused look but just shrugged. He honestly didn't care what he called himself, so long as he was out of his hands. "Well, I think that's all. Any place you want to go in particular?" Hisashi asked. Instinctively Izuku wanted to say home. But then the image of his mother's body on the floor flashed in his mind. He couldn't go back there. Tears started trailing down Izuku's face as he realized he couldn't go home. He couldn't see his mother again. The life he knew was over. Ah. Hisashi had no idea what to do here. "Why don't you sleep on it? If I could make a recommendation, then why not Tibet? You can go there and get in touch with your emotions, learn kung fu or whatever. You can look up places on your phone. Go to your room and you'll leave tomorrow, okay?" Hisashi brought Izuku to his temporary room and Izuku laid down on the bed. Later that night, Izuku yelled as he jolted up. Another nightmare. A dream filled with nothing but his mother's body, the sound of the gun, and Bolt's face. Izuku's thoughts lingered on that face. He had felt many things since his mother's death. Denial, sadness, self-loathing. But now as he pictured the face of the man who killed his mother, he felt something else. Something new. Hate. Never before had he ever hated a person. Never before has he wanted to hurt someone. Never before had he lamented his weakness so much. Ah! Izuku yelled, this time not in sadness but rage. Why? He yelled as he cried. Why would a hero do this? Hero. Suddenly that word felt so wrong. Heroes were supposed to help people, save people. They were supposed to be good people. But that man, that monster, was not a hero. No matter what test he took or license he had. That man was not, nor would he ever be a hero. Rage filled Izuku. And yet no one believed him. He told them who did it. But they didn't believe him. The feeling of being powerless was not new to Izuku. He felt it every day. But never before had it felt so suffocating, so overwhelming that it made Izuku want to break something. Why? Why did I have to be quirkless? Izuku screamed. He couldn't do a thing. He couldn't fight back, no one believed him and he had no one who would back him up. He couldn't stop Bolt from getting away with this. There was a long period of silence as that information sunk in. No, Izuku whispered. I won't let him. I won't let him win. I'll stop him. Somehow. With newfound determination, forged by his fury. Izuku made a promise. Mom. I swear. I swear I'll make him pay. The next day. Hey, sport. Hisashi says with his fake smiled. Did you find out where you want to go? Tibet, Izuku answered instantly. Oh, Hisashi said, surprised by how sudden the answer was. Well, I'll get the plane ready and you'll be on your way. Izuku said nothing. He was too busy planning in his head. He was going to take down Bolt as anyone else who abused the title of hero and villains too. He would be a hero. But not a pro-hero. That title had been stained forever in his mind. He would be a hero like the ones in the comics. The hero the world needed. And so he decided he would train his body and mind in every way possible. He would travel the world and learn from all the places he could. Starting with Tibet. 11 years later, 11 long years had passed for Izuku. Years of agonizing training, miraculous wonders, and long periods of study. And now Izuku stood at another airport, ready to travel to his next destination to train. Then his phone rang. Instantly Izuku answered. He knew it wasn't his father because his father never called him, so for him to receive a call from this phone, means something must have happened. Hello, are you Hisashi's son? Said a man Izuku didn't know. Who is this? Izuku asked curtly. I am the new CEO of the company. The man said. I'm sorry to say that your father had passed it. Izuku thought. He still didn't like his father, but he no longer hated him. After all, he did supply him with the funds for his training. But without him, he would no longer be able to continue his training or acquire the gadgets and supplies he needed. Looks like he would have to go with Plan B, however, good news, he did leave you a large sum of money in his will. The man said. Izuku's eyes widened. He hadn't expected his father to leave him anything, let alone a bunch of cash. Perhaps he would need to pay some respect to his father after all. However, as for your deal, as you can expect, I won't be giving you any money to continue doing whatever you want. The money had been transferred to your card. Have a nice day. The man hung up. Izuku sighed with relief. While this situation wasn't favorable, it was far from the worst-case scenario. Still, I don't have unlimited money anymore. Izuku thought. I suppose my training is done then. It's time to go home. A few months later, finally, it was built. Midoriya Manor. Izuku had stopped using his fake name, as his father was dead and the deal was off. The manor was a large 4-story manor that looked like your typical rich person mansion. However, the place was secretly covered in all sorts of defenses. Turrets filled with tranquilizers hidden in the plants. Scanners for motion, heat and more all over the place. All the doors and windows could be fortified and covered by layers of steel at any moment. Izuku walked through his new manor. It had cost a quarter of what his father left him, but he needed a well-fortified base of operations, and while this wasn't necessarily it, it would do until he figured out how to develop his real base. Walking into his study, the whole place was lined with bookshelves. In the center was a circular carpet, right in front of his desk. It's finally time. Izuku thought. He pulled on a book in one of his shelves, and then the carpet opened up. The center circle of the carpet rose and revealed his armor. His bat suit. When Izuku was thinking of what to call himself, he decided he would theme himself after a bat. He was already trying to show he wasn't worthless, so why not do it dressed as the thing he'd been mocked about? After all, Izuku was a fan of irony. Izuku suited up and put on the cowl. Computer. Review what we know about the target. Izuku said. Target is the piranha. The computer says. A pro-hero that has secretly committing cannibalism. Eating innocent citizens at the docks on Saturdays and using the water to hide their bodies. Izuku had been investigating the piranha in the last few weeks. He was discovering evidence on Bolt when he stumbled across a lead that led him to the piranha's crimes. He would have liked to take down Bolt first, but he needed more evidence. He looked in his utility belt to make sure he still had the flash drive containing the evidence that would convict the quote-unquote hero. Alright, time to go. Izuku thought. I need to make it before he eats someone else. Later at the docks. Help. A woman cried. She was running away, her leg bleeding, from the piranha. Eventually, she made a wrong turn and was backed up against a shipping container. Don't run. You'll only make this take longer. Piranha said. Piranha was a large, bulky man with gills on his neck and razor-sharp teeth, and he had nothing on but a pair of wet briefs. Please. You're supposed to be a hero. How can you do this? The women screamed. The piranha smiled. Like this. He lunged at her and the woman closed her eyes and prepared for death. But it never came. What the? The piranha yelled. The woman opened her eyes to see that there was some kind of rope wrapped around the piranha. They both looked back to see Izuku in his armor was holding a grapple gun. The piranha struggled against the rope and Izuku struggled to keep his footing. You think you can hold me? The piranha yelled. I don't need to, Izuku said. He pushed a button on his grapple gun which sent an electric shock through the metal rope. Gah! The piranha screamed as he was electrocuted. Izuku took his hand off the button and the shock ceased. The piranha fell to the ground. Knocked out. The women gasped. Tears of joy coming from her eyes as she limped to her savior. Thank you. Thank you so much. Your leg, Izuku said. It's injured. The woman looked down at her leg which had a bite mark from the piranha. He surprised me. I managed to get away, but if you hadn't come should have come sooner, Izuku said as he pulled out some medical supplies from his utility belt. If I had you wouldn't have been injured. Izuku disinfected and bandaged her leg before putting the supplies back in his belt. The police will be here soon. He said. When they come I need you to do 3 things. The women nodded. First tell them he attacked me first, Izuku said. I don't have time to explain why, just please do it. Okay. The women said. Secondly, make sure to tell them I used this, Izuku said pointing to his grapple gun. You don't need to know what it is, just make sure they know it wasn't a quirk. Okay. The woman said. Lastly, give them this. Izuku handed her the flash drive. This has all the evidence needed to put this disgrace away for the rest of his life if what happened tonight wasn't enough. Yes, sir. She said as she held the drive close to her. Thank you. Good night. With that, Izuku walked away and aimed his grapple gun at one of the cranes. W8. The women said. Izuku turned his head. What? Who are you? The women asked. You can call me Batman. And with that, Izuku fired the grappled and rocketed off into the night, with a smile on his face. He had done it. He had saved someone and put a villain in jail. Tonight was the beginning. Now all those who lurked in the shadows underneath the notice of most heroes, would face the Batman. Hello, my name is Nyusu Teori here with Midnight on HNN, said the newswomen. Today we are here to discuss the strange circumstances around the new vigilante the Batman. Tell me, Midnight, why is it that he hasn't been arrested? It's been 3 months and it seems that not only has he not been captured, there also seems to have been no attempts to capture him. Midnight sighed. Because we can't. Why? Nyusu asked in slight shock. He is clearly committing vigilantism. Well, yes, but no. Midnight said. You see, there is a large misconception on how vigilantism works now. You see, before quirks came around, it used to be that if you fought crime without being a part of the police force, then you were a vigilante. After quirks showed up and a long period of chaos passed, there was a new law. No using your quirk in public, even in self-defense. No one liked that at the time, and vigilantes came. The police who couldn't use their quirks were completely outmatched, and so the government created the hero system and updated the law on vigilantism, so it became illegal to fight villains unless you were the police or a pro-hero. Now here is the part most people don't know. While they were making the no quirks in public law, many politicians disliked that it was both illegal to defend yourself and illegal to save someone without a hero license. So to satisfy those people, they made it so you can fight a villain if you don't use your quirk at all. Wait, so you can basically just commit vigilantism legally if you don't use a quirk. That's insane. Why would they ever allow that? Nyusu asked. Because they didn't think anyone would be stupid enough to try it. Midnight said. It's like running around with scissors to your chin. It's not technically illegal, but it's really dumb. They assumed that anyone who tried doing what Batman is doing would die and be an example for everyone else. And since changing a law is more difficult than getting sympathy from Endeavor, by the time they fix this loophole, if they ever do, Batman will have died from either a villain or old age. Well, are you sure Batman isn't using a quirk? Nyusu asked. Couldn't he just be using his quirk in secret? It sounds very outlandish that Batman could do the things he's doing without a quirk. Well, if he is, he sure is good at hiding it. Midnight said. He does most of his work in a stealthy fashion, so we rarely even see him in the first place, and any signs that he could have used a quirk is quickly proved to have been done by one of his gadgets. It seems that Batman is an exceptionally skilled individual, which only makes me wonder why he doesn't become a pro-hero. As a pro, he would have fewer limitations and more resources, so why doesn't he just get his license? Well, that actually has to do with our next topic, Nyusu said. Batman has brought to light the crimes of several pro-heroes, 8 to be exact. Do you think this is connected to his reasoning for not becoming a pro-hero? And how do you feel about these pros committing such horrible crimes? Midnight sighed once more. Well, it is possible that Batman has some sort of distrust or hatred towards the pro-hero community. And as for the actions of those villains who called themselves heroes, well, I'm horrified, to say the least. To hear that so many pros have been committing crimes in secret makes me want to punish them myself. Midnight thwacked her WHP across the floor. They are disgraces. And should never have been allowed to be pros in the first place. Midnight continued. This is another reason people are so tolerant of Batman. Nyusu raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Midnight took a deep breath, calming herself. Well, many of the police force, citizens, and even a good number of pros are very thankful for exposing the frauds. Even some of the villains are thankful. It's one of the reasons why it's so hard to prove he's breaking the law. Because if there is any evidence that he's using a quirk, then someone might just cover it up. I see. Well, I can't say that I'm not glad these disgraced pros are jail. But how do you feel about him? Nyusu asked. Well, I don't fully dislike Batman. Midnight said. I'm glad he is exposing these pros, and he does seem very skilled. But I dislike how he works outside the law. I feel a lot of people agree with you, Midnight, Nyusu said. Now I just have one more thing to ask. Do you think that Batman will continue exposing more pros, and if so, what do you think the state of pro-hero scene will be like? Well, I would hope that there aren't many more pros to expose, but I have a feeling this is only the beginning, sadly. And as for the state of pro-heroes, well, I feel there will be more supervision on our activities to start. Midnight said. Well, seeing the shocking things that had come to light recently, I would say that's a good idea, Nyusu said. Now do you have anything you would like to say before we go? Midnight nodded and turned to the camera. I would like to apologize that these villains were allowed to gain hero licenses and betray your trust like this. And if Batman is watching this, first I would like to thank you for bringing these crimes to light, and second I would like to ask that you become a pro. No one knows who you really are, so there would be no issues. Thank you. That was midnight, everyone. Nyusu said. Elsewhere. Endeavor scoffed at the news. This Batman should just be arrested. He's a vigilante. Plain and simple. He thought. Suddenly the TV turned off. What the? Endeavor said. Enji Todoroki. Came a voice from behind him. Endeavor immediately rose, turning around and coating his fist with fire. Standing there with a flaming fist in his face was Batman, who was completely unfazed by the sudden increase in heat. How did you get in here? Endeavor yelled. You know what, that doesn't matter. You're under arrest. Batman stood there, still completely unfazed. The number 2 hero scowled. What are you, dense? Are you Red Dead or something? Who the hell do you think I am? I am the goddamn number 2 hero. And you just broke into my house. Child abuse, Izuku said. The flame hero froze. What? Domestic violence. Izuku continued. Negligence, bribery, hiding information, arranging a quick marriage, breeding. You've been busy over the years. I wonder what the public would think. Izuku put his hand over a button on his utility belt. Would you like to find out? He asked, his voice modifier making it sound very menacing. What the hell are you talking about? Endeavor yelled. If I press this button, then all the proof I have of your activities goes right to the computers of every police station in the city, Izuku said. You're lying. Endeavor said. There's no way you could have proof of that. I found out about it, didn't I? Izuku said. That means there's a trail. And that means there's proof. There was a pause as Endeavor kept the fire in front of Izuku's face. Do it. He said. I'll survive, my lawyers can only do so much, Izuku said, cutting him off. And bribing won't work. I'll make sure of that. At best you'll have your hero license and children taken away. At worst you'll go behind bars. Either way, you're screwed. So Endeavor, why don't you turn your quirk off and we can talk? There was another pause before Endeavor complied, deactivating his quirk and putting his fist down. What the hell do you want? Endeavor asked. I want many things, Endeavor. I don't think you fully understand your situation. Izuku said. You're going to do everything I tell you. And if you refuse, then I will ruin you. Understood. If looks to kill, then this whole place would be a glass floor. There were so many things Endeavor wanted to shout out right now, but for his own sake, he kept his mouth shut. I said. Understood. Izuku said, his finger getting closer to the button. Endeavor shut his eyes and swallowed his pride. Understood. Good, Izuku said. Now first, you're going to stop abusing your children. If you try, then I'll know. That means no more of those training sessions where you beat him until he can't go on, no more over-exhausting him, no more holding meals as punishment. I could go on, but I would be here for a while and you already know what I'm talking about. DMNU. Endeavor said before he could stop himself. That's all I want from you for now, Izuku said. But when I call, you will answer. And of course, you won't be telling anyone about our little talk. There was another short pause before Endeavor said. Who the hell do you think you are? Another pause before Izuku smirked and said. What are you, dense? Are you Red Dead or something? Who the hell do you think I am? I am the goddamn Batman. And you, Enji Todoroki, are on borrowed time. My time. With that, Izuku threw a smoke pellet on the ground and the room was covered in a gray cloud. Endeavor coughed as the smoke dispersed. And Izuku was nowhere to be seen. "Dad, are you okay?" Fuyumi said. Endeavor turned around and looked at her with an enraged expression. A look containing more rage than she had ever seen before. She quickly closed the door as screams of rage and the sounds of things being destroyed eliminated from the room for the rest of the night. Meanwhile, Izuku stood hidden outside of the Todoroki house, smiling as he heard Endeavor rage. He wished he could have just exposed him, but he couldn't. The faith in heroes was already being shaken with the small-time heroes he was exposing. If people found out that the number 2 hero was even more of an but then they already knew he was, then there would be chaos. Of course, that didn't mean he was going to let Endeavor off scot-free. And if he couldn't arrest him, although he never technically arrested anyone, then using him would have to do. He needed to find a way to get money anyway. Deciding that he had gotten enough satisfaction for now, Izuku left for home. After all, he had no time to waste. He had so many things to do while also gathering evidence on Bolt. The next day at Midoriya Manor, Izuku sat at his computer when suddenly something he didn't expect happened. His doorbell rang. Ding dong. Immediately Izuku closed what he was looking at and looked at the camera that was at his front door. Outside his front gate was a black limousine and Melissa shield. Izuku pressed the button for his intercom. Hello. Izuku said, taken off guard by her sudden appearance. Oh, hello. Is this the house of Midoriya, Izuku? She asked. Yes, Izuku said. And you're Melissa Shield, right? Yup. She said. What exactly are you doing here? Izuku asked. Oh, I wanted to work with you. She said. Or should I say I wanted to work with Batman. Instantly Izuku's face shifted from confused to serious. Why don't you come in, Izuku said. Izuku pressed the button and opened the gates. Melissa hopped back into the limousine and drove into the further toward the manor. Eventually, she reached the front where Izuku was waiting for her. Melissa walked out of the car along with her driver. An old-looking butler. And who is this? Izuku asked. Oh, this is my butler, Alfred, Melissa said. A pleasure to meet you, sir. The clearly British man said. The pleasure is mine, Izuku said. But I would like to talk with Melissa alone. Of course. Alfred, please wait outside. Melissa said. Alfred nodded and stood by the car. Thank you. Now let's talk. Izuku said, opening the door so Melissa could enter. The two walked in and Izuku led her his office. Ha! Nothing too fancy. Melissa said, looking around. I'm guessing one of these books is fake. Izuku sighed. 3 months in and already he's been found out. Great. Izuku sat down behind his desk while Melissa sat in front of him. How did you know? Izuku asked, getting to the point. Well, it's actually kind of funny, Melissa said, leaning back. You see, when I heard that a vigilante was going around that couldn't get arrested. Well, I wondered exactly what everyone else wondered. Why didn't he just become a hero? Why not just get your license so you can use your quirk? I made a bunch of complicated theories on why someone would do this, but then it came to me. You know about Occam's razor, right? The principle that the correct answer is the simplest one, Izuku said. So I thought. What if he's just quirkless? Melissa said. You see, no one would ever suspect a quirkless person of anything. Given how rare we are, to the point where some people have never even seen a quirkless person, it would be almost like suspecting a unicorn. It doesn't even come to mind. But when you are quirkless yourself you can consider these things, Izuku said, starting to put the pieces together. So then you looked for the only quirkless person in the city who had enough money and was young enough to be Batman. The fact that me and Batman showed up at the same time most likely helped you figure it out. Yup, Melissa said. I see, I need to find some ways to make my identity less obvious, Izuku said. If the only difficulty in finding me out is remembering that quirkless people exist, then that's an issue. Melissa laughed a little at that. Yeah, we have got to fix that. Izuku gave her a confused look. We. Yeah, I said I wanted to work with you. Melissa reminded him. And I doubt you're going to just let someone who knows your identity out of your sight so easily. She's right. Izuku thought. Letting her run around with my identity would be reckless. And she could be of some help, I suppose. But did she come all the way from Island just to work with me? The thought made Izuku blush a little before shaking it off. Well, what exactly do you have planned? Izuku asked. Melissa smiled. Well, I was thinking that we would first need a new source of income. Tell me, how are you planning on getting more money to support your antics? Oh, I just blackmailed Endeavor and was going to drain money from him, Izuku said. Melissa raised an eyebrow. That dash, he abused his wife and kids. Izuku justified. Oh, never mind, then keep doing that, Melissa said, losing all sympathy for the number 2 hero. But I also think we should have a more legitimate source of income. After all, I have a lot of things I want to make for you, and that's gonna cost a lot. Wait, before we continue, why do you want to help me anyway? Izuku asked. I doubt it's just because we're both quirkless. Wellies and no, Melissa said, slightly bashful. I want to help for a few reasons. When I found out about all the crimes some of these pros were committing, I was enraged. Heroes are supposed to inspire people, not that. So one of the reasons I want help is because, well, I want to expose these phonies just like you. Izuku was touched slightly. His work was inspiring others. Some he always wanted. Putting those feelings aside, Izuku spoke. And the other reason? Well, you know how you fight quirkless. Melissa said. I think that you could be an inspiration to quirkless people everywhere. Nowadays there are a lot of quirkless people who think they will never amount to anything. I want to fix that, and I think the two of us could help. Izuku never really thought of that. He had been so focused on getting revenge that he never really thought about the effect he would have on people. Was I so obsessed with vengeance that helping people became secondary? Izuku wondered. So are we partners? Melissa asked, extending her hand. Izuku looked at her hand for a few seconds before extending his own hand and shaking hers. So what is this plan on how to make money? Izuku asked. So simple. We're going to make a support company. Melissa said. Wait for what? Izuku asked. Elsewhere in a ruined lab, a man in a lab coat stood over a broken container. What happened? Asked All for One, walking in from behind him. It seems that one of the soon-to-be Nomas had somehow retained its ability to think independently and escaped. The doctor said. Oh. And how did he manage that? All for One asked. I don't know. The doctor said. But perhaps his brain was so small that he was used to operating on the simplest of thoughts. I intend to find out when we capture him. And how shall we do that? All for One asked. The doctor smiled. Well, what better way to catch a crocodile than with a shark? Thanks to Melissa, things sped up exponentially. The two quickly got to work making gadgets for their support company, and in just a week they already had a list of buyers. Mostly thanks to the SHIELD name being so famous. And thanks to her construction bots, they finally were able to start working on the Batcave. Melissa also helped him with his crime fighting. Taking up the code name Oracle, she helped speed up his investigations, upgraded his gear, and built him a whole bunch of new stuff. And once the Batcave was done and the Batcomputer was finished, she was constantly in his ear, literally thanks to the comm, giving him directions and looking things up on the fly, saving Izuku valuable time. They also made sure to cover up a lot of Izuku's information, making him harder to track. Honestly, the only part of all this that Izuku was displeased about was the butler. For whatever reason, Melissa insisted that he stay with them in the mansion, and considering everything she has done for him, he could not refuse. All this achieved in just 2 weeks. Of course, this meant that Izuku had to focus less on catching villains and exposing fake heroes. So they had some catching up to do. Batcave. Melissa sat at the Bat computer while Izuku, who had just finished suiting up, walked up behind her. "What's planned for tonight?" he asked. "There was a kidnapping," Melissa said, bringing up the picture of the kid in question on the monitor. Kota Izumi. Age 9, quirk hydrokinesis. He's been missing for 2 days with no clues. However, an hour ago Jason spotted this. "Who is Jason?" Izuku asked. "Oh, remember the Robin drones," Melissa said. A few days ago Izuku had asked Melissa to create drones that would fly around and monitor crime. He, of course, wanted them to be bats, but because bats don't really fly around cities they instead made them look like robins. "Yes," Izuku said. "Well, I gave them names," Melissa said. "There's Richard, Jason, Tim, Stephanie, Damien, and Carrie." "Why?" Izuku asked. "Because I wanted to," Melissa responded. Now back to the kid. Melissa brought up an image of the kid being kept in a warehouse, tied up in a chair with a man standing in front of him, most likely a guard. The people who kidnapped him are probably going to ask his parents for ransom. The Waterhouse duo. They don't have a lot of money, Izuku pointed out. "Yes, but their kid was probably easier to take than anyone with more money," Melissa said. "I've programmed the coordinates into the Batwing." "You finished testing it?" Izuku asked. "Just yesterday," Melissa answered. "Now get going." Izuku nodded and ran off. Melissa pressed a button and a platform rose to reveal the Batwing. The Batwing was a large single-pilot plane in the shape of a bat. Jumping into the pilot's seat, Izuku fired up. The plane flew through the exit tube. Once Izuku exited the tube he ended up a few miles away from the manor and flew high into the air. "Activate camouflage," Izuku said. As Izuku flew into the air the Batwing slowly turned somewhat invisible. You could still see it if you were up close, but seeing as it was an aircraft it's unlikely that would ever happen. "So while we have some time, do you mind telling me why everything is bat-themed?" Melissa asked over the communicator. "One of my childhood friends wanted to give me a name that meant useless and should not exist," Izuku said. "They tried Deku but that was too obvious so they decided on Komori. Because like a bat I was missing something important." That's awful," Melissa said. "You said a friend did that." "Well, I never said he was a very good friend," Izuku responded. "Izuku that was not your friend," Melissa said. "People who pick on you and call you horrible things are not your friends." "To be fair, that's probably the worst thing he did," Izuku said. "Other than the beatings." There was a pause before Melissa spoke again. "Izuku, did you have any actual friends? Like ever?" she asked. Izuku sighed. "Shield. You were lucky in where you grew up. I was not. I didn't have friends when I was a kid. And when my mom died, I didn't have time for them during my training. To be honest, Shield. You're the only friend I've ever really had." "Oh," Melissa said. The rest of the trip was silent as it only took a few more seconds for Izuku to arrive at the location. Izuku set the plane down on top of the warehouse. Jumping out, Izuku immediately activated his detective mode. Detective mode was any investigator's best friend. It allowed him to find evidence, detect enemies, see details about anyone he wanted. It was almost magical how easy it made things. 9 men. 2 of them armed. The kid's in the back room with 1 man guarding him. There is a ventilation behind the 2. The kid seems to be sedated so he won't give me away, Izuku analyzed. Battle plan in mind, Izuku found his way into the vents. After crawling for a minute he found his way into the back room. Silently he took off the cover of the vent and snuck up behind him. Before the man knew what was happening his gun was ripped from his hand and another hand covered his mouth. His head was forcefully thrown into a wall, rendering him unconscious. "Is the kid okay?" Melissa asked. Izuku looked at the kid in detective mode. "Yes. Whatever they drugged him with isn't strong, he'll be awake soon enough." "All right. Now take down the others," Melissa said. "You have 15 minutes. I've already called the police." "Good. I'll be done in 5. Izuku said. "But first." Izuku went up to Koda and used the blades on his arms to undo the ropes. He picked him up and carried him over to the vent before placing him inside and placing the cover over it. With Koda hidden, Izuku walked up to the door. Outside are 8 goons. 1 is armed, 2 have physical enhancement quirks. Given the readings, the others likely don't have quirks worth worrying about. In other words, nothing to worry about, Izuku thought. Izuku kicked open the door and threw a lot of smoke pellets, covering the whole place in smoke. "What the hell?" one of them said. "It's the heroes," another one said. Izuku fired his grappling hook at one of them, and as he came flying toward him, Izuku close-lined him, knocking him out cold. 7 left. One of the big guys with a physical enhancement quirk was wildly swinging around and accidentally took out 2 of the goons. 5 left. Izuku ran at the large man, and as the man attempted to punch him, Izuku jumped, flipping onto the man's shoulders. Before the man could react, Izuku threw a pellet into his face that was filled with knockout gas. Izuku jumped off the man as he fell to the ground. 4 left. Izuku threw out 3 batarangs at 3 of the goons. They all cried out in pain as they sank into their skin, but their cries were cut short as they were electrocuted by the batarangs and soon fell into unconsciousness. 1 left. The last man ran into the back room, looking around frantically. CRP, CRP, where the F is the kid?" he yelled, looking for his hostage. "Looking for someone," Izuku said, sneaking up a few feet behind him. "Oh!" the man yelled as he took his gun and fired it directly at Izuku, only for the bullets to bounce off his armor. "My armor could take hits from All Might," Izuku said to the terrified man. Izuku walked up to the man, who was now quivering in fear. "Drop the gun and I won't have crack your skull," Izuku said. The man shook for a few moments before complying and dropping his gun to the floor. But suddenly the man took a pistol outside of his briefs and shot it right at Izuku's mouth. Just before the bullet could reach Izuku's unprotected jaw, Morimura suddenly popped up, covering his jaw, causing the bullet to bounce off. "What the?" the man said. "Did you really think I would leave my jaw completely unprotected?" Izuku said. Before the man could answer, Izuku punched the man in the face, knocking him out. "That's all of them," Melissa said. 4 minutes and 38 seconds. "Turns out you didn't even need the 5 minutes. You should probably get the kid out of here." "Shouldn't I leave him to the police?" Izuku asked. "I'm sure his parents would like to see him as soon as possible, and you'll get him there faster than the police. Besides, we don't know if one of these guys has a quirk that will make them wake up faster," Melissa explained. "Smart," Izuku said. "All right. I'll bring him to his parents." Later, at the house of the water hose duo. "Any news?" asked Mizu Izumi, as her husband, Hosu Izumi. "No." Hosu sighed. He took off his helmet and threw at the ground. "DMN it. 2 days. 2 days. And we still can't find him." Hosu fell onto the couch, tears rolling down his face. "We shouldn't have left him alone," Hosu said. Mizu slowly slid next to her husband, putting her arm on his. "We'll find him," Mizu said. "Indeed you will." Both of them jumped up and looked to the source of the unknown voice to see that Batman was standing in the corner of their living room, his cape covering everything but his hand. "What the hell?" Hosu yelled. "Batman." "Correct," Izuku said. "How did you get into our house?" Mizu asked. "Unimportant," Izuku said. "What is important, is your son." A realization came to the two distraught parents. People often said that Batman was the world's greatest detective, finding any and all hints of corruption in the hero society. If he was here talking about Kota, you know where he is? Hosu asked desperately. Better, Izuku said, moving his cape aside to reveal Kota, still asleep in his arm. Kota, Mizu said, taking him from Batman's arm. The two looked at Kota and noticed he wasn't waking up. What happened to him? Hosu quickly asked. He was drugged by his kidnappers, Izuku said. Nothing too harmful. He should wake up soon. Kota groaned as he opened his eyes. Or now. Izuku corrected. Kota. Mizu cried, tears of joy streaming down her face. Mama. Papa. Kota said, still woozy from the drags. It's us, son, Hosu said. We're here. What happened? Kota asked. Some bad people took you, but Batman saved you, honey, Mizu said. Batman. Kota looked over at Batman. The drags are likely still in his system. He should get some rest. Izuku suggested. Hear that, Kota? You should sleep now, Mizu told her son. Yeah, tomorrow we'll celebrate, Hosu reassured. Okay. Thank you, Batman. Kota said sleepily, before closing his eyes. Mizu took Kota to his room, leaving Izuku alone with Hosu. Who took him? Hosu said in a serious tone of voice. Just some goons, Izuku answered. They should already be in police custody. Wish I could have been there, Hosu said, half enraged and half lamenting. Mizu walked back into the room, tears still in her eyes. Batman. We can't thank you enough. Mizu said. Oh yeah, where are my manners? Hosu said, thank you so much for bringing Kota back. You don't need to thank me, Izuku said, trying and failing to suppress a smile. You two have saved hundreds of lives. Consider this an expression of my gratitude. Nope, we owe you, Hosu said. If you ever need anything, please ask us, Mizu said. Izuku shook his head, but with the smile still clearly on his face. I need to get going, Izuku said. But you're welcome. With that, Izuku left the house with Mizu and Hosu in tow. Izuku decloaked the Batwing, which was revealed to be parked right on top of their roof. How did we not notice that? Hosu asked. Don't worry about it, Izuku said. I have the best of best building these things after all. Well, thank you again for your help. Safe travels. Mizu said with a bow. Have a nice night, Izuku said before grappling up onto the Batwing and taking off. So the best of the best, Melissa said. Well, you are, Izuku stated simply. Melissa blushed slightly on her end. Well, my father is still much better than I am. I suppose that right. But I imagine in 2 or 3 years that will change. Izuku said. I don't know about that. My father is a genius after all, Melissa said, getting slightly flustered. And so are you, Izuku said. Well, I can't really argue with that, Melissa said. And thank you. Izuku raised an eyebrow from under his cowl. Why are you thanking me? I was just giving you the credit you more than deserve. Melissa laughed a little. Can you ever just accept someone's thanks? When I deserve it, Izuku said. Izuku. You just saved a 9-year-old from villains. You deserve thanks. Melissa pointed out. Anyone would have done that, Izuku said. We just found him first. Well, you found him first. Nope. Stop giving me all the credit. She said. You were the one who saved the kid. You complimented me. You deserve to be thanked. Accept it. Izuku sighed. You're welcome. Good, Melissa said. Also Izuku. Yes, Shield. Izuku responded. Please call me Melissa. She said. There was a pause. Are you sure? Izuku asked. Yeah, I'm more used to people calling me by my first name anyway, Melissa said. Also well we are friends right? Izuku smiled a little. Right. Oracle I'm here, Izuku said walking into the warehouse. Earlier their drones had picked up a crime scene at a warehouse near the docks. There were bodies thrown around everywhere, blood splattered all over the place. It was a horrible sight. The remains of the bodies had large bite marks in them as if they had been eaten by some kind of monster. Ugh. I don't understand how you can look at this without throwing up. Melissa said. Years of mental fortification, Izuku answered. Turning on detective mode, Izuku scanned the area, and immediately found some clues. There's a footprint here, Izuku said. It's much larger than a normal footprint. Melissa looked at the footprint through Izuku's cowl. No one who works at that warehouse had feet that large. That must be our killer. Melissa said. It doesn't look like a human foot, Izuku said. He walked to the next clue. He found a small green scale lying in a pool of blood. A scale appears to be reptilian. Consistent with the footprint. Izuku said. These two clues combined with the bite marks tells me that the murderer was a large reptile-like man. Possibly either a transformation or a mutant-type quirk. Well, I'm looking through the listed quirks. I found 5 people who match the description. But 3 of them are currently not anywhere near your location, 1 of them is dead, and the last is missing. Melissa said. Tell me about the missing one, Izuku said. Kuriko Dairu, Melissa said. 11 foot tall and 850 pounds. His quirk is called Crocodile. It's a mutant-type quirk that turned him into a huge crocodile-like man. He's participated in many underground fighting matches. They called him Killer Croc. Despite this, he never actually killed anyone. He went missing 6 months ago, no leads onto what happened. Are there any other possible suspects? Izuku asked. No, Melissa said. Not too many giant lizard men with sharp teeth in the city. Izuku sighed. Looks like we're done here then. Let's see if we can find any leads on Killer Croc. Suddenly Izuku heard something bubble. He looked towards the hole that leads to water, as a large gray hand rose up. Out of the water came a huge, gray shark man. Cork. Where is Croc? The shark man said. You don't look like a pro hero, Izuku said. Would you mind telling me why you're looking for him? Where is Croc? The shark man said, much more aggressively. I have a feeling he's not working for the right side of the law, Melissa said. Suddenly the shark man charged at Izuku with lightning quick speed. Izuku barely managed to react, jumping over him just in time. He's fast. Melissa said. Way too fast. Where is Croc? The shark man repeated. Activate gauntlets, Izuku said. His arms started to glow as his electric gauntlets activated. Before the shark man could attack him, Izuku threw a smoke pellet, covering the area in smoke. Rah! The shark man roared, searching for his prey. Suddenly out of the smoke Izuku jumped at the shark man and punched him in the nose. Rah! The shark man roared in pain. As he recovered he sniffed. Suddenly he froze. He sniffed a few more times. Croc. He said. Izuku went to punch its nose, but the shark man backhanded him, sending him flying into a wall. Gah! Izuku grunted. Find Croc. The shark man said. As Izuku was recovering, the shark man walked back towards the opening, and dived into the water. Izuku, are you okay? Melissa asked. I'm fine, Izuku said, rubbing his ribs. Did you lock on to the tracker I put on him yet? When did you have time to put a tracker on him? Melissa asked. During the smoke screen, Izuku said. Have you locked on? Yeah. I've got him. Melissa said. So looks Croc just became a much more likely suspect. Yes. I'm heading back to the cave. Izuku said. A punch from my gauntlets at his weak point barely did anything. We need to take the data from my cowl and come up with a plan. I'm already on it, Melissa said. See you when you get back. Later at the cave. Izuku landed the Batwing in the cave and jumped out of the cockpit. Izuku, good, come here, Melissa said, beckoning for him to come closer. Izuku walked over to see what Melissa had been working on. Red disc, with bat symbols on them. King Shark's skin is way too tough for you to do any significant damage, Melissa said. King Shark. Izuku said. I couldn't figure out who that was, so that's what I'm calling him for now, Melissa explained. Okay, Izuku said. What were you saying before? Oh. So you can't really damage him with any of your current weaponry. Melissa said. So I took a look at the scans we got from the cowl, and I saw something interesting. His body needs hydration and his body seems to retain water much better than the average human. So I'm guessing that these discs are going to take advantage of that, Izuku said, inspecting them. Melissa nodded. These discs are designed to deliver a heat pulse throughout the target's skin, evaporating most of the moisture on their skin. Will he die? Izuku asked. No. I said most moisture. He'll still have enough to survive. Melissa reassured. Alright, Izuku said. Have you figured out where he's going? Melissa shook her head and the two walked to the bat computer. His movement patterns are too erratic, Melissa said, pulling King Shark's current location and movements. Every time he goes in one direction for too long he stops for a second and then changes direction. Izuku looked at the pattern on the screen for a moment. The sewers. Melissa gave him a shocked look. How do you dash? The reason his pattern is erratic is because he's looking for something, the stopping is because he's sniffing the water around him. After all, tracking something underwater using their scent is difficult, so he needs to constantly regain his lead. But he's still heading somewhere. The sewers. Melissa looked at him in amazement, before giving him a bright smile. They don't call you the world's greatest detective for nothing. I'm pretty sure that's just a joke, Izuku said. Well, we have a lead, Melissa said. Tick-tock, let's find the croc. Tick-tock. Izuku said. Don't tell me you never watched Peter Pan. Melissa said. I don't really watch movies. At all. Izuku said. Well, we need to fix that. Melissa said. After we catch these two we are going on a movie binge. We should be focusing on finding evidence after we're done with this, Izuku said. You need to relax, Melissa said. It would be really embarrassing if the Dark Knight was found passed out on rooftop from overexertion. Then I'll relax over some nice hot data, Izuku said. I'm heading to the sewers. I will get you to relax. Melissa yelled. She pushed a button on the computer and in the waters of the Batcave, the Batboat rose. Izuku jumped in and sped away to the sewers. Later in the sewers. Izuku snuck around the sewers, making sure that he was out of sight. If he wanted to find Croc, then he would need King Shark to lead him there, so staying in the shadows was a must. Melissa was also watching, but she knew that Izuku couldn't say anything or else he might be heard. King Shark should be rising any minute now. Izuku thought. Sure enough, emerging for the water, King Shark rose. Good. Now take the lead. Izuku thought. Izuku followed King Shark through the sewers. Then suddenly, he stopped. Thump thump thump. A loud thumping was coming towards them at an increasing speed. Found. King Shark said. Rah! Yelled Croc as he lunged at King Shark, jaws first. Croc looked different from the picture Melissa had shown him. Now he looked more like a crocodile than a man. He was slightly larger and even had a tail. Something wasn't right here. King Shark grabbed Croc out of the air with his claws and threw him through a wall. King Shark walked into the room he had thrown Croc into. Doctor, want Croc back? I will bring Croc back. Doctor. Izuku thought. No. Never go back. Croc roared. The two charged at each other and King Shark threw out a right hook, nailing Croc in the face. King Shark was about to strike once more when Izuku intervened, throwing one of the heat discs at King Shark's back. King Shark tried to pull it off but it activated before he could. Gah! King Shark wailed as heat spread all through his body, turning the water on his body into steam. Weakened, King Shark fell to his knees and Croc took the opportunity to punch him across the room. Croc ran at him, ready to finish him off when Izuku jumped in the way. Stop! Izuku said. Croc ignored him and kept charging, ready to knock Izuku out of way. Izuku dodged the attack and jumped over him. He took out his grapple gun and shot it around Croc's leg, tripping the monster like man. Izuku threw a few pellets at Croc, which hit him and exploded into foam, keeping Croc in place. Gra! Wah! Croc roared as he struggled to escape. That's not gonna hold him forever, Melissa said. I know, but it bought me time, Izuku said. He walked up to Croc, staring him right in the face. Croc tried to bite at him but he was too far away. Kuriko, Izuku said. What happened to you? You went missing and then you suddenly show up with cannibalistic tendencies, and more power than you've previously shown. Gah! They took me. Croc said. They took me and tortured me. Not going back. Never going back. He seems to have reverted to an animalistic mindset, Melissa said. That might explain why he ate those people. Who did this to you? Izuku asked. Doctor. Doctor. He roared. Looks like he doesn't know the name, Melissa said. Great. More detective work. Let's see what information we can get from Gah. Izuku screamed. King Shark attacked him from behind, biting down on his arm, crushing it, making blood leak out of the cuts in his armor. What? That's impossible, he should still be steaming. Melissa said. Activate gauntlets. Izuku cried. The gauntlets fired up and blasted the inside of King Shark's mouth with electricity. Rah! King Shark roared, spitting out Izuku's arm. Izuku used his functioning arm and threw another heat disc at him. Rah! King Shark shouted as the heat disc did its job. Izuku, you need to get out of there. Melissa shouted. Before Izuku could respond, Croc freed himself from the foam and swatted Izuku into the sewer water. The last thing Izuku heard before losing consciousness was the sound of the two large men fighting. Hours later. Izuku's eyes fluttered open. He found that he was back in the Batcave, laying on the medical table. Almost instantly he felt a slight pain in his right arm. Looking down, he saw it was covered in bandages, along with the left side of his waist. Must have broken some ribs when Croc hit me. Izuku deduced. I must have floated into harbor and Melissa sent the Batwing to pick me up. Izuku got off the table and walked to the Batcomputer. Sitting down, Izuku turned the computer on. Alright. Chances are the fight is over. So I need to see the result. Izuku said. The tracker says that Shark is still moving. So either he has Croc and is heading back to the doctor, or Croc escaped. Izuku looked at his probably broken arm. He was likely on painkillers, which is why the pain was as minor as it was. I need to go back to the scene of the fight. But in this state, it's probably better to stay put for as long as I can. Izuku said. Better send one of the Robins. Izuku entered some commands on the keyboard and the screen shifted to show the feed from the camera in the Robin's eye. Izuku steered the Robin into the sewers and after a little looking around, he found the place. After analyzing the area, Izuku started theorizing. The amount of destruction suggests that the fight didn't last very long after I passed out. Judging by the footprints, it looks like Croc got away. He probably took advantage of the fact that Shark was weakened by the heat disk, and got away after a few blows. Then after Shark recovered, he chased him. Meaning that King Shark is still likely on Croc's trail. Izuku sat there thinking about what to do next. I'm down one arm and I have no idea on how to take either of them down, Izuku said. The heat disk only stuns King Shark, but it seems that electricity seems to be effective. But only on his insides. How about we just call Uncle Might? Melissa said, walking up behind him. And you can just sit back and recover. Is that too much to ask? Yes, Izuku answered. You and I both know that All Might is recovering from severe overexertion. About a day ago, All Might had to hold up a collapsing building while other heroes freed the civilians trapped inside and underneath it. Holding up the building was not the hard part though. Unfortunately, there were not any rescue heroes nearby. It took a few hours for some to arrive. After that, it took a few more hours for them to find all the civilians and get everyone to a safe distance so All Might could let the building fall. Needless to say, keeping his buff form for that long put a lot of strain on his body. So he was not going to be out and about anytime soon. Melissa sighed. Yes, but all we would need to do is wait a few days and dash. In a few days the tracker could fall off of Shark and we would have to look for them all over again. In a few days, Croc could eat more people. In a few days, Shark could lose Croc and then we would have no way of knowing where he is, leading to him eating more people. Izuku said. I know you only showing your concern for my well-being, but I'm sorry, we don't have time to waste. But what are you going to do when your arm is like this? Melissa exclaimed. A good question, Izuku said. The disc only seemed to affect King Shark for a short period of time. Meaning that he has the ability to rehydrate himself, somehow. A quirk that both gives you incredible power, the ability to breathe underwater, and immunity to dehydration. Some people get all the luck. Melissa joked. I don't think this is natural, Izuku said. Croc looks completely different from the pictures we have of him. And he's much stronger to boot. Not to mention his new savageness. King Shark seems like he is just as primitive. They also mentioned someone called the Doctor. What are you saying? Melissa asked. I'm saying that these two have been modified, Izuku said. That someone is attempting to weaponize people and turn them into powerful servants, that will do whatever they ask. And to do this they are somehow either modifying their existing quirks or giving them multiple quirks. Wait, Melissa said. We've heard about something like this, in those files we hacked into Ono. It can't be. He died. But his body was never found. Izuku pointed out. We have to face the possibility that we are dealing with All for One. We need to tell All Might, Melissa said. Even if we aren't going to ask them for help, he should know about something like this. Definitely. Izuku agreed. But right now, we should focus on taking down Kriko and King Shark. But like I asked before, how are you going to do that? Melissa said. If I may make a suggestion. The two looked behind them to see Alfred was standing behind them, with a food tray in his hand. Alfred! Melissa exclaimed in shock. What are you doing here? Izuku sighed. Thanks to his training he was already aware that someone was walking up behind them, and thanks to common sense he already knew it was the butler. If he was staying here then it was bound to happen eventually. Good thing he's loyal, Izuku muttered. I'm so sorry. I was kinda just hoping he wouldn't find out, Melissa said. You thought I would never find out about the entrance to the large cave, that was right under the manor, Alfred said. I am insulted that you would underestimate my intelligence to such a degree. Melissa probably just deluded herself into thinking that because she wanted to justify keeping you around, Izuku said. If anything it's a testament to how much she likes you. Izuku. Melissa yelped in embarrassment. Alfred chuckled. I should hope so. I was the one who changed her diapers after all. Alfred. Melissa's face was crimson now. And you seem to be taking my presence here as stride Mstr Izuku, Alfred said. I wasn't able to delude myself into thinking someone as astute as you would never find something so obvious, Izuku replied. No offense, Melissa. You two are the worst. Melissa pouted. Anyway, you had a suggestion, Izuku said. All Might is not the only hero there is, Alfred said. I am aware that you are not one to easily trust other heroes. However, knowing you, you likely have a list of heroes that you can trust. So you think we should set up a team? Izuku asked. Well, you could proceed to fight both of them by yourself with a broken arm. But I fear what the mental trauma would do to Lady Melissa after you die. Heaven forbid she put on a costume herself and attempt to punish criminals in the night. Alfred said. I think I could do quite well as Batwoman, Melissa mumbled. As much as I don't like relying on pros. It looks like I don't have much of a choice. Izuku sighed. Let's get a team together. And while you're doing that, I'll start analyzing the data from your latest fight and try and see if I can make any more gadgets to help you, Melissa said. Yes, but before you do that, Alfred said, uncovering his food tray to reveal a plate of eggs and toast. It is 6 in the morning and you have yet to eat breakfast. Izuku was about to object when his stomach rumbled loudly. Thank you, Alfred. Later, back at the warehouse. The water hose duo looked over the carnage with disgust written across their faces. God. First thing in the morning and we already have to deal with this. Hosu said. Well, it was either this or investigating an incident in the sewers, Mizu said. I don't know which would smell worse. Hosu replied. Water hose. One of the policemen said, walking up to them. Someone is asking for you, outside of the taped area. Who? Mizu asked. Batman. The police officer said. Both their eyes widened and instantly ran outside, where they saw Batman standing right outside the keep-out tape. Batman. Hosu said with a grin on his face. Well, isn't this a pleasant surprise, Mizu said. Here to do some detective work. Yeah, what are you doing on the other side of tape? We could use you in here, Hosu said. I'm still counted as a civilian, Izuku said. So I can't enter restricted areas like this. Besides, I already figured out everything yesterday. Of course you did, Mizu said. You feel like filling us in? That depends. How would you feel about working with me and some other pros? Izuku asked. Whoa, wait. Hosu said. Are you asking for help? Yeah, I have to admit you seem more like the type to do things by yourself, Mizu said. I tried that. And now I have a broken arm. Izuku revealed. Wait, really? Hosu asked. What the hell were you fighting? I'll tell you if you agree to work with me, Izuku said. I need allies I can trust, and you two made it onto the list. Well, you can count us in. Hosu said. Right, Mizu? Of course, Mizu said. We have no reason to refuse, seeing as we were assigned to take care of this issue anyway and you're just making our job easier. Izuku smiled briefly before handing Hosu an paper. This will tell you the time and location for the meeting. A light. We'll make sure to be there. Hosu said. Take care. Izuku nodded and walked off. Later. Mirio Togata was patrolling the city, under the orders of Sir Night Eye, as usual. Seems like a slow day. Mirio said. Good. That means all these folks can keep going about their days in peace. I wish that was the case. Mirio turned his head around to see Batman standing behind him. Wow, you are just as sneaky as they say. Mirio said. Mirio Togata, Izuku said. I need your help. Mirio raised an eyebrow and was about to say something, but Izuku spoke first. I am aware that I am not the type to seek help, but I have no choice, Izuku said. People are in danger and I don't have time to do this by myself. So Mirio Togata. Will you help me? Mirio looked him in the eye for a few moments, as if he were judging him before his face broke into a grin. How can I help? Meet me at this location. At this time. Izuku said, handing him a paper. Mirio looked at the paper. So are you asking sir for help too? No, Izuku said. I'm only inviting people I trust. You trust me? Mirio asked. That's kinda weird considering we've never met. Izuku shook his head. You may not know me. But I know everything about you. And if All Might thinks you're worthy enough his successor, then that means I have to keep an eye on you at all times. Wait. All Might's successor? Mirio asked. I can't say anymore, Izuku said. Let's just say a lot of important people have their eyes on you. Before Mirio could say another word, Izuku dropped a flash bomb, making Mirio look away as light flooded the area. When the light died down and Mirio looked back, Izuku was gone. Note to self. Mirio thought. Ask Aizawa to help me be more aware, no ninjas. Later. Bakugo Katsuki was standing on a rooftop, looking over the surrounding area. Trying to find any signs of trouble. Today is so boring. He groaned. Looking for a fight. How little you've changed, Kaken. Bakugo froze. Before his face split into a grin. I wouldn't say that, Bakugo said. It's been a long time. Komori. I figured you'd know, Izuku said. You were an but never an idiot. Got that right, Bakugo said. Tell me, did practicing your quirk on me help? Izuku is a dangerously calm tone. Did beating up people who did nothing wrong make you a better hero? Bakugo looked down, saying nothing. Izuku walked up to him. Not going to tell me to shut up, Izuku said a bit louder, rage evident in his tone. Not going to try and put useless little Komori in his place. Bakugo remained silent. Say something. Izuku demanded. Bakugo turned around and started laughing. DMN, you're good at acting. He said, though his own laughing. If you did that to someone else they would have bought it. Izuku immediately dropped his angry cat and his face unconsciously formed a smirk. How did you know I was faking? 1. I can see through bullshit, Bakugo said. And 2, you're not the type to hold a grudge over something like that. It's been a long time since we last saw each other, Izuku said. I've been through a lot. I've changed a lot. Yeah. That's pretty obvious. Bakugo said. We may not have face to face. But your actions tell me exactly what you're thinking. If you really hated me you probably could have gotten me kicked out of you, with all that money and influence you have. But you didn't. You went after all those other corrupt pros, but not me. Being a former bully is not the same as being a murderer, Izuku said. Fair enough, Bakugo said. But my point still stands. You're a lot calmer, Izuku said. Being angry for no reason never helped me, Bakugo said with a bit of disdain. And it made me act like but. So you admit it? Izuku asked with a bit of hope in his tone. Yeah. I was wrong. Bakugo said. Is that what you came here for? Yes. And no. Izuku said, handing Bakugo a paper. I also came to ask for your help. With what? Bakugo asked. I'll brief you on it later, Izuku said. I just need to know. Izuku extended his arm for a handshake. Can I trust you? Old friend. Izuku continued. Bakugo chuckled. I still don't get you. After everything I did to you. You still call me a friend. Heh. I think that combined with the whole dressing up like a bat and fighting villains quirkless thing, proves that you're crazy. Probably, Izuku said. Anyway. I'll see you there. Now cover your eyes. Wait. Bakugo said. Since we have a few hours to spare, I want to see what all that training amounted to. Izuku smirked. As much as I would love to. My arm was just mauled by a shark. Bakugo raised an eyebrow. You better explain that later. I will, Izuku said. But for now. Izuku dropped a flash bomb and in a burst of light, he was gone. Bakugo rolled his eyes. TCH, F ninjas. A few hours later. Bakugo walked up to a seemingly abandoned building. Couldn't Komori have picked a less shitty-looking spot? Bakugo muttered. He walked into the building to see that the lobby didn't look any less abandoned. Moss and vines covered the desk and floor panels were destroyed from plants bursting out of them. The only thing that didn't look totally destroyed was the elevator, and even then it was still covered in rust and dents. Okay. Where the F do I go now? Bakugo asked. As if responding to his question, the elevator suddenly came to life and the door opened. Shrugging his shoulders, he entered the elevator. The doors closed and the elevator went down. Figures a bat would stay underground, Bakugo muttered. After another half-minute, the elevator stopped, and the doors opened. When he got out, he entered a large room. There was a circular table with 5 seats, a large computer, large black boxes, and a few other things. Bakugo, you got invited too? Said Mirio, instantly getting up in his face. God damn it, I have known he'd get you to tune face. Bakugo shouted. So he brought in Ground Zero? Hosu asked. He thinks he's trustworthy. The hell is that supposed to mean? Bakugo snarled. Honey, that's rude. Mizu said. TCH. Where's Batman? Bakugo asked. He hasn't shown up yet, Mizu said. He's late. To a meeting he organized. Bakugo said, sounding skeptical. Have you tried looking up? Everyone paused for a second before turning their heads upwards to see Batman standing in the rafters. About time you noticed me, Izuku said. I was going to make my presence known, but it looks like Ground Zero beat me to it. Why were you even up there? Hosu asked. I may trust you all, but I prefer to stay cautious. There is a chance that any of you could have been replaced by duplicates or put under enemy control. By keeping watch of your activities after you arrive, I can deduce if any of you had been compromised. Izuku explained. Sounds a bit paranoid, don't it? Mirio asked. Better safe than sorry, Izuku said. Batman's weirdness aside, can we get to the point? Bakugo said. Right. Everyone take a seat. Batman said, pointing to the table. Everyone sat down and Batman pressed a button on his belt. Suddenly the computer monitor came to life, displaying a bat logo. Hello everyone, said Melissa's distorted voice. Everyone, this is Oracle, Izuku explained. She is my partner and half the reason I'm able to be as effective as I am. Ah, you're too kind. Without this whole thing would have never happened in the first place. Melissa said. Wow, things have changed. Never thought you of all people would get a girlfriend. Bakugo said with a smirk. Wait, what? Izuku said, slightly startled by this statement. No. This is purely a work relationship. We just recognize each other's skills. Melissa defended. Methinks the lady doth protest too much, Mirio said. Anyway. Izuku said with a slight blush. Oracle, please bring up the enemies. The screen changed, displaying images of King Shark and Killer Croc. These are our enemies, Izuku said. The one on the right is Kuriko Dairu, aka Killer Croc. He is the one responsible for the deaths at the harbor. He appears to have eaten them. So he's a cannibal, Bakugo said. Yes, but there's something wrong about that, Melissa said. Croc participated in many underground fighting rings, but he never killed anyone. Then one day he disappeared and now he shows up not only displaying previously unseen cannibalism habits and a completely new appearance to boot. And that brings me to the other villain. We don't know who he is, so Oracle has given him the name, King Shark. Izuku explained. He's chasing Croc, and is intent on taking him back to someone called, the Doctor. Croc's power and speed have been enhanced drastically. To the point where Batman can barely dodge them. Melissa said. We tried taking on King Shark by using specialized tech to evaporate all the water on his body, and it did weaken him for a minute, but it seems that he has some way to rehydrate himself. On top of that, he's incredibly strong and fast. Then let me at him, Bakugo said. I'll take care of them. The chances of you beating one of these things by yourself is about half and half, Melissa said. You wouldn't stand a chance against both of them, especially since Croc tends to hide in sewers. Sewers. Of course. Bakugo said. Well, I can't say I particularly enjoy sewers either, Mizu said. Agreed. Mirio said. How did Croc get so much stronger? Hosu asked. We believe that maybe thanks to this doctor. Izuku said. King Shark was abnormally strong and simple-minded, but he seemed solely concerned with his mission. And Croc has been reduced to a more savage state. It's my theory that this doctor is attempting to turn people into weapons. Altering their minds and enhancing their quirks. Or possibly giving them multiple quirks. What? Everyone said. Wait 1 minute, is that even possible? Bakugo asked. Yeah, I'm with him. Could something like that happen? Mirio asked. Science has gone too far. Hosu said. It is possible for someone to have multiple quirks, Melissa said. It's happened before. What? Mizu said. We can't tell you anymore. But let's just say there have been documented incidents of people having multiple quirks. Izuku said. Although never naturally. What's that supposed to mean? Bakugo asked. Like he said, we can't tell you, Melissa said. It's top secret government information. Even we're not supposed to know. Wait. Did you hack the government? Mirio asked. For the greater good. Melissa justified. Wow, you guys have ball, Hosu said. Well, I guess. If it's that important, then we'll be better off not knowing, Mizu said. Government. Fine. I don't give a SHT anyway. Bakugo said. I don't really like the whole, breaking the law thing, but if you're willing to trust me, it's only right that I do the same, Mirio said. You mean you want to keep an eye on me, Izuku said. Mirio smiled and rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. Wow, you figured me out instantly. Truth is, I don't entirely trust you. I mean, you seem like a good guy and all, and you seem to have good intentions. But you also seem a little shady. Understandable, Izuku said. TCH, Bats is fine. Bakugo said. This guy is about as evil as cotton candy. You two know each other? Hosu asked. Yeah, I have to admit I never expected Bakugo or Batman to have friends. Let alone be friends with each other. Mirio said. The F is that supposed to mean? Bakugo snarled. I had friends. No, you didn't, Izuku said. You had minions. TCH. They were F losers anyway. He muttered. Yes, me and Bakugo know each other, Izuku said. Although if you're going to try asking him for my identity, you'll be wasting your time. And mine. Bakugo barked. I respect your privacy, Mizu said. Same, Hosu said. Well, I know Bakugo is pretty stubborn, so I'm not gonna bother, Mirio said. Anyway, Izuku said. These two are likely living weapons. Taking them down is not gonna be easy. However, he does have some things we can use to our advantage. I have developed several devices that will help you in your fight, Melissa said. And I have developed a strategy, Izuku said. I hope the chairs are comfy. We are going to be here for a while. Croc ran for his life. He was barely able to keep ahead of King Shark and he was starting to get tired. He started slowing down and soon enough King Shark was behind him. Croc. King Shark said. Take you back to Doctor. Croc readied himself to fight when suddenly Mirio popped out of the ground. Heya. You must be that King Shark guy. Mirio said. Sorry. But I can't let you take him. King Shark swiped his claw at Mirio only for it to go through him. King Shark was confused by this and started rapidly swiping at Mirio but to no effect. Suddenly a heat disc was thrown at him from behind. Rah! King Shark roared as the moisture on his body was evaporated. Suddenly the water bellow King Shark started to move more rapidly, the flow becoming faster and faster until it started dragging the weakened King Shark away. Croc saw this and tried to flee but when he turned to run he was met with an explosion to the face. You not going anywhere Scaly? Bakugo said. Before Croc could retaliate Batman snuck up behind him and attached a collar on his neck. Croc turned around again to attack Batman, but he pressed a button on his belt. Rah! Croc roared as he was electrocuted by the collar. He tried to pull it off but the moment he touched it the volts increased. It was not long until Croc fell to the floor, knocked out. TCH, thought you said this guy was tough. Bakugo said. If I put that collar on you, you would die, Izuku said. Now we just need to wait for Mizu to give the signal. Right. Mirio said. Alright. Everything is going as planned. Izuku thought. Back at the planning meeting. Croc will likely be running out of steam by the time we get to him, Izuku explained. King Shark will likely be in close proximity so we need to act fast, otherwise we'll find ourselves in the crossfire of a fight. Izuku turned his head to Mirio. Mirio, you'll distract King Shark so that I can attach a heat disc to him. Then he turned to Hosu. Then you control the water around his feet and drag him away from Croc. Mizu, if they aren't standing in water then change that. Once he's in front of you use your quirk to keep his body from rehydrating. We have a theory that he is condensing the water in the air in order to rehydrate, so anytime water enters his body just pull it out, Melissa said. If that doesn't work then use this. Batman threw 2 canisters at Mizu and Hosu. The canisters had a bat symbol on them and below them were the words, shark repellent. Are you kidding me? Bakugo said. Do you really need to stick a bat on everything you own? At this point, it's a running GG, Melissa said. Anyway. Those will keep King Shark off of you long enough for you to escape, should something go wrong. Bakugo, you will distract Croc so that way I can put this collar on him, Izuku said pulling a collar out of his utility belt. Once I put this on it will deliver a shock powerful enough to incapacitate him. After King Shark is down Hosu will transport them both out of the sewer. Water hose. Once you take King Shark down, contact us immediately. If you don't contact us for 3 minutes then we will assume that something went wrong. Melissa said. Any objections? Izuku asked. Back to the present. Well, I have to say things are going pretty well. Mirio said. Yeah. Too well. Bakugo said, suspicion in his voice. Do you always need to be such a downer? Mirio asked. Give Batman some credit. This plan seems foolproof. No, Izuku said. In every plan, there is one thing that can cause everything to go wrong. The unknown. Suddenly Mizu's voice blared over the comms, we're under attack. There's someone else here. Hosu is hurt. I hate it when you're right. Mirio shouted as they ran to Mizu's location. In about half a minute they arrived to see Mizu hold an unconscious Hosu covered in scratches and what looked like bite wounds. What happened? Izuku asked. We were taking care of King Shark when Hosu was attacked from behind, Mizu explained. The guy was huge. He looked kind of like a shark man. Not like King Shark, but more human than shark. So I sprayed him with the shark repellent and he hissed and ran away. King Shark recovered, so I sprayed him too and he ran off. Did he have pitch black eyes and sharp jagged teeth? Izuku asked. You know it. Watch out. Izuku said, pushing Bakugo out of the way to avoid a lunge from the new foe. Bakugo reacted quickly, sending a blast at his would-be attacker, knocking him back. The man was sent flying into a wall before falling to his knees. He chuckled. As expected from one of the most promising hero students in UA, who the F are you? Bakugo asked. Great White Shark, Batman said. He's a relatively minor crime boss. He's been lying low recently. When I found out what happened to Croc, I suspected that he was turned into King Shark. Seems that's not the case. As if I would get turned into one of those things. White Shark said. You see, Subject 094 was taking way too long to complete his objective. So I was sent to ensure that he gets it done. So you're working for this doctor person? Izuku asked. White Shark scoffed. As it? I'm working for the big guy. Izuku scowled. You mean all for one? White Shark grinned. Bingo. This is a chance to prove myself. When I get Croc back to the lab, I'll be in the big leagues. A shame you'll all be going to jail then, Izuku said. White Shark laughed. How do you figure that? 094 is taking Croc back to the lab right now. Is that so? Izuku said. Oracle. Time for Plan B. Suddenly the whole sewer shook violently for a few seconds, and in the distance explosions and crumbling could be heard as all the lights suddenly went out. What the hell did you do? White Shark demanded. I blocked all of the exits, Izuku said. What? Shouted everyone. I set explosives all around the sewer that when detonated would block any way of exiting, Izuku explained. The heroes will likely soon take notice and come down here. We blame the explosions on you, and the other two get captured, and that will be that. Thanks to the night vision in his cowl, Izuku was able to see him glaring at him. Time for the next phase. Izuku thought. What? Izuku said with false concern. The west tunnel is still open. How? Izuku saw White Shark perk up. The bomb was a dud. Izuku exclaimed. DMN it. Ha ha ha. White Shark laughed. Looks like your plan wasn't so perfect after all. I'd love to stay, but someone has to show that big gray lug where to go. Oh, but don't worry, I'll leave you with plenty of company. With that, White Shark jumped into the water and swam away. Hey, get back here. Bakugo shouted. He was about to chase after him when Izuku stopped him by putting his hand on his shoulder. Don't, Izuku said. I lied. What? Bakugo asked. I lied. About everything. Izuku revealed. None of the exits are sealed. I just needed them its head to one specific one. Then what was that explosion? And the shaking? Mizu asked. It came from a site above us that was scheduled for demolition. I planted a bomb there and detonated it to create the explosion and crashing sound. I also tempered with the sewer's electrical system to knock out the lighting. Izuku explained. Phew. Mirio said. I thought you actually trapped us in the sewers. Why the hell were you worried, Toon Face? You phased through the F-walls. Bakugo pointed out. Yeah, but it would have SCKED for you guys, Mirio said. Guys. Mizu said. What is that sound? The other three went dead silent, and the sound of scratching and crawling could be heard. Izuku looked at the water, and thanks to the night vision in his cowl he could see monster-like creatures crawling out of the water. What the hell are those? Melissa said over the comms. We have company, Izuku said. Bakugo, you know what to do. Bakugo grinned. He made an explosion in front of him, briefly lighting the area. Mirio grinned. Thanks. He then phased through the floor only to burst out, rocketing towards one of the monsters and punching it in the face. Bakugo joined in, letting off explosions that both took out the Nomu and lit up the sewer. Izuku walked over and took the injured Hosu from Mizu. Help them. I'll help him. Right, Mizu said. After a few explosions, Mizu got a sense of their location and sent out a blast of pressurized water at the monsters. After blasting away, though, they ran with Izuku in the front leading the way and Bakugo in the back blasting the monsters who were not far behind. Take these. Izuku said, throwing them all flashlights from his belt. You'll need them to beat whatever those things are. Seriously, what the hell are those? Mizu asked. These are probably weaker versions of whatever King Shark is. Izuku guessed. Whatever they are, they're not very ga. Bakugo cried out as a monster fell on him from the ceiling. Mizu turned and sent a huge blast of water, pushing back both the monster on top of him and the monsters behind him. Bakugo got up. DMN it. Why did you have to turn off the F lights? I needed to make sure they went down that one tunnel, Izuku said. Otherwise they would escape. And what's down that tunnel that has you so sure they'll be captured? Bakugo asked. You'll see, Izuku replied. Now turn left. After a bit more running they saw a light in the distance. Hey. I see the way out. Mirio said. They ran further and further towards the exit, but when they got to it. Water. The exit led to a cliff with water below it. Wait. Hosu can't swim in his condition. Mizu pointed out. And isn't your arm broken? Suddenly out of the water, something emerged. Something big. Oh my god, Mizu said. From the water, an enormous submarine rose up. Everybody get on. Izuku commanded, passing Hosu to Bakugo. Mizu jumped down, shooting water out of her hands to slow her fall, while Bakugo did the same thing with his explosions. Mirio jumped, going through the sub before coming back up a few seconds later. Izuku jumped down and after a few seconds, the glider function in his cape activated, letting him land safely onto the sub. The hatch opened and one by one everyone climbed inside. Phew, Melissa said over the comms, that was kinda risky for a moment. Anyway, I'm submerging the bat sub now. Wait, Izuku said. Not yet. What do you mean not yet? Melissa asked. If you wait any longer then those things will catch up to you. That's the point, Izuku said. Before Melissa could say another word Izuku heard a thunk, meaning that one of the creatures had landed on the sub. Everyone else, get Hosu to the med bay, Mirio, knock it out, and bring it to me, Izuku said. You want me to bring that thing inside? Mirio asked, alarmed by this request. Yes. Now do it before more come. Izuku commanded. Mirio sighed and phased through the ceiling. After a few seconds, the unconscious monster was thrown down the hatch. Mirio phased into the sub. Alright, now what? Oracle. Submerge. Izuku told Melissa. We're done here. 20 minutes later. After imprisoning the monster, Izuku walked into the medbay. It was a small room with 3 beds. There was a cabinet filled with all sorts of medicines and medical tools, as well as a large TV in the center of the room. Hosu was still being attended to by Mizu. White Bakugo and Mirio were talking in the background. Good work everyone, Izuku said. While Plan A failed, Plan B went mostly well. Yeah, you have a lot of things to answer for, Bakugo said. First off, why the F didn't we hear about this Plan B? While I trust you all enough to ask for your help, I don't know anything about your acting skills, Izuku said. I needed to be certain that they would go through that specific tunnel, otherwise they would have gotten away. I'm sorry for keeping it from you, but I deemed it necessary. Okay. But what's down that tunnel? Mirio asked. You're about to find out, Izuku said, grabbing a remote and turning on the TV. This is HNN News. Today Endeavor has been seen standing outside one of the entrances to the sewer for quite some time. We have been told to stay away from the area and what this. It looks like something is coming out. Meanwhile with the sharks and Croc. I see it, the light, we're about to be out of here, boys. Great White Shark said. They all ran towards the exit, King Shark carrying Croc, when suddenly the light at the end of the tunnel got brighter and brighter. OSHT, White Shark said. And then they were engulfed in flames. Back at the bat sub. It seems Endeavor has captured what looks to be a trio of villains. The newswomen said before running up to Endeavor. You got Endeavor in on this? Mizu asked, amazed that Izuku managed to convince the hot-headed hero. He didn't really have much of a choice, Izuku said. Oh, but don't worry, it gets better. Sir. How did you know that these villains were going to be here? The reporter asked. Endeavor paused and his face scrunched up into an even angrier scowl than usual. The water hose duo aided me by leading them here. They themselves are still in the sewer, making sure that there aren't any more hiding in there. Ha! He looks like he's gonna explode. Bakugo mocked. Izuku turned off the TV. Had to make sure you two got the credit and pay you deserved, Izuku said. Mizu smiled. Thank you. Although I doubt Hosu is going to like it considering how little he got to actually do. So let me get this straight, Mirio said. Plan A was to initiate a surprise attack and take them out before they could attack us back. Correct, Izuku confirmed, nodding his head. Plan B was to trick them into heading out through one specific exit, and having Endeavor blast them all to heck. Mirio theorized. All the while we escaped through this exit and got to this bat sub. Yes, Izuku said. I figured that if King Shark took too long, then the person who sent him might send someone else, most likely someone more intelligent. Okay, but why did you have me bring that thing inside? Mirio asked. I needed to study it, Izuku said. I need to see if it's possible to reverse whatever happened to them. And if you can't? Bakugo asked. Then I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else, Izuku growled. The idea of someone turning people into these puppets disgusted him. He hoped that he could change them back. But if he couldn't, he could at least put them out of their misery. Regaining his composure, Izuku spoke again. Thank you all for your help. I wouldn't have been able to do it without all of you. I can send you home whenever you like. Until then, feel free to stay as long as you like. I think I'll take myself home, Mirio said. It's been fun, and thank you. For what? Izuku asked. Letting me help. With these guys off the streets, more people are safe. Mirio answered. If you ever need help saving people, you can always count on me. With those words, he phased through the floor. Yeah, I'll take myself home too, Bakugo said. Gonna need you to surface first. Oracle, you heard him, Izuku said. Already on it, Melissa said. Done. You free to go, Izuku said. Right. Also, what Toon Face said, the same goes for me. Bakugo said. Unless I'm busy. Then you can F off. Noted, Izuku said with a smile. Bakugo walked away, heading the hatch on the first floor. I'll stay here for a while, Mizu said, looking at Hosu. Just until his wounds recover. I'm sorry about that, by the way, Izuku said. It's fine. We're heroes, after all, we know what we signed up for. Mizu said. There was a short pause until Mizu spoke again. Do you own all this? Mizu asked. No. Oracle does, Izuku said. Although I'm the one that uses it, everything is made with her money and she designed it all, so it technically belongs to her. I like to think it belongs to both of us, Melissa said, tapping into the TV to talk to her. So you must be some kind of super genius then, Mizu noted. Oh, I wouldn't call myself a super genius, Melissa said bashfully. She is, Izuku said. She's one of the smartest people on the planet. I'm lucky to have her by my side as an ally, I mean. If you haven't noticed, Batman is rather quick to praise people for their talents, Melissa said. But he has an annoying habit of never praising himself. Oh, he's one of those, Mizu said with a smirk. Well, in that case. Thank you, Batman, for your generous plan and quick thinking. If I had made a better plan, then maybe Hosu wouldn't have been hurt, Izuku responded. You see what I mean? Melissa asked. He's a complete party pooper. He hasn't even watched a Disney movie. Are you kidding me? Mizu said, looking at Izuku. Are you even human? Is it really that much of a big deal? Izuku asked. Yes. They both responded at the same time. Later that night. On a lone road, a truck was bringing King Shark to Tartarus. Man, that thing is ugly. One of the guards said. Yeah. Apparently, he's pretty strong too. Another guard said. Good thing Endeavor took him out fast. Another guard stays silent before making his move. He moved up to where the driver was. Hey, what are you dash? Before he could finish, the guard hand extended and smashed his head against the wheel, knocking him out. He then removed him from the driver's seat, stopping the truck. What going on up here? Two of the guard ran up after hearing the impact. The guard extended his arms, grabbing both of their faces. The two guards shot at the traitorous guard and the bullets went into him, but he was unaffected. Suddenly his whole body started melting and changing color until he turned into a clay-like blob man. Sorry about this, he said. Suddenly his hands expanded, completely enveloping their heads, making it impossible to breathe. The guards struggled for a while before their bodies eventually went limp. The clay man uncovered their heads and grabbed their unconscious bodies. He threw all the guards and the driver out of the truck before taking the wheel and driving off. I got him, the clayman said. Good. Very good, Clayface, said All for One through an earpiece. At least we got one of our resources back tonight. What do you mean? Clayface asked. We managed to retrieve most of the Nomus we lent to Great White Shark, but one of them is missing. All for One sighed. And as for Great White Shark, I don't see any reason to add him back into our ranks. And Croc? Clayface asked. All for One chucked. Funny thing is, when we sent someone to retrieve him, we found that his truck was on the side of the road with all the guards paralyzed. So he escaped? Clayface asked. No. All for One said. If he escaped, then those guards would be dead. Someone else took him. A few months prior, Himiko Toga was not okay. Why, you ask? Well, there were a lot of reasons. She always felt restricted, like she could never be herself. Because any time she was herself, her parents would scream at her. Why can't you be normal? Act like you're not a monster for once. That's what they would say. There was also the issue that every part of life felt fake. Felt empty. But the real problem was that she was currently being drowned by a sludge man. MPHH, Himiko struggled to try and free herself, but to no avail. Don't worry. The pain will stop soon enough. The sludge villain said. This was it. She was going to die. And when she so worried about her life, where she would end up, how to suppress her abnormal side. It was like a bad joke. Gah! The villain cried as tear gas was thrown at his eyes. Himiko felt something wrap around her waist and she was suddenly pulled out of the villain and landed in the arms of Batman. For a moment, everything slowed down and she forgot about the sludge in her lungs as she looked up at her savior. It was love at first sight. She had seen Batman before, she even looked up to him, he did what he wanted and no one could stop him. It's the kind of life she longed for. Batman threw a handful of bat bombs into the villain. He wrapped her cape around both of them and the bombs exploded. Boom! Sludge flew everywhere, getting all over the building street and Batman's cape. When the explosion died down, Himiko was breathless. Literally. As she started choking on the sludge, Batman laid her down on the ground and pressed on her chest. She coughed out the sludge, allowing her to breathe again. "Can you talk?" Batman asked. "Why, yes." Toga stuttered, partly because she was recovering from the attack and partly because she was starstruck. "Are you okay?" Batman asked her. "Why, yeah. I'm fine," Toga said. "Good," Batman said. He then grabbed Toga's hand, making her heart skip a beat and her face go red. He placed a pill in her hand and said, "Swallow this. I doubt that sludge was good for your insides and you might get sick if you don't take this." Himiko nodded and did what he said, never taking her eyes off him. "The heroes should be here to take him away soon," Batman said. "But in case he wakes up before they get here, I would recommend leaving the area. Have a nice day." Batman pulls out his grapple gun and aims at one of the buildings and firing. "Wait," Toga said. Izuku pressed the trigger to pull himself to the building when Himiko grabbed his waist. "What the?" Izuku was not prepared for the extra weight and the two flew over the ledge of the building before landing face first onto the roof. "That was dumb," Batman said. He didn't sound mad or like he was scolding her. He was just stating a fact. What she did was dumb. "Yeah. Sorry." Toga apologized. "Alright, what do you want?" Izuku asked. "How do I be like you?" Toga blurted out. "Like me?" Izuku repeated. "How so?" "Free." Toga clarified. "You do what you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. And no one else can tell you what to do. I want to be like that." "Ah," Izuku said in understanding. "Let me guess. People are telling you what you are. How you should act. What you should be. And any time you step out of line they smack you back into it." "Yes," Himiko said, relieved that someone finally understood her. "How did you know?" "Because they tried to do the same thing to me," Izuku said. There was a short pause before Izuku spoke again. "What is your name?" Izuku asked. "Himiko Toga." She answered. "Please call me Himiko." "Himiko. You're different, aren't you?" It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Toga looked away. She had tried so hard to try and bury that abnormal part of her. And he was able to figure her out in only a few minutes. Part of her was upset about that. But the rest of her was excited. Society doesn't like people who are different. Izuku went on. They bully them, shun them, try to get them to conform. And some do, they suppress what makes them different until they fit it in. But it's almost always temporary, those bottled up emotions and feelings will eventually burst and cause them to act rashly. Izuku walked up to Toga and looked at her eye to eye. "It's like he's staring into my soul." Toga thought with glee. "My advice to you, always resist," Izuku said. "Never lose sight of who you are, and don't let someone else take control of your life." Toga said nothing as she stared at him in awe. "Live your life, Himiko," Izuku said before turning around and grappling away. For a while Toga just stared at the space where Batman stood before smiling herself. A new life had just started for Toga Himiko. Back to the present, Commissioner Naomasa sighed. Things have been rough ever since Batman showed up. At first, it was only a minor problem, people were obviously shocked that pro-heroes were committing crimes, but it wasn't too bad. However, as time went on, Batman started exposing more and more corrupt pros. While he was glad these fakes were being exposed, the sheer amount of pros getting convicted had caused the public's opinion to shift. Now more and more people were supporting Batman, saying that today's society needed someone like him. But the real problem was that people were starting to distrust heroes. Basically, everyone but the most popular heroes were now under suspicion by the public. At this point, Batman could probably accuse almost any hero of being corrupt and there would be a good amount of who would believe him, even if he didn't provide any evidence. And it seems like someone was trying to capitalize on that. Today a group of pros suddenly went berserk and started attacking everything in sight. They were stopped, of course, but after integrating them, they all said they had no recollection of doing what they did and that they would never do something like that. And all of them were telling the truth. Maybe they were all being controlled. Naomasa wondered. He had to solve this case quickly before the public started crying to throw them into Tartarus. You look rather stressed, Commissioner. Naomasa quickly pulled out his gun and turned around. Only to feel a soft pair of lips meet his. Days later. Welcome back to HNN News. A female reporter said. After being absent for a few days, the principal of Nizu has released a statement saying that All Might will be taking a short break from hero duty. A well-deserved one to be sure. Speaking of vacations, Endeavor has taken a short vacation himself, leaving his son in the hands of his capable older sister while he's gone. The male reporter said. In related news, the Water Hose duo has revealed that Batman had a hand in the capturing of Great White Shark, King Shark, and Killer Croc. He was the one who tracked down the villains and came up with the plan that took them down. The female reporter said. And speaking of Batman, a new vigilante has shown up and much like him, she has not been proven to using a quirk. The male reporter said. Little is known about her, except her gender and her name. The Red Hood. Continuing on the topic of Batman, an alarming amount of pro-heroes have been convicted of crimes within the last week. The female reporter said. And with this public opinion of Batman has increased greatly, as more and more people are in support of the Caped Crusader. Commissioner Naomasa has gone on record saying that he is going to find and arrest all of the corrupt heroes and has been arresting heroes left and right. The newsman continued. Could he possibly be the Batman? Pew. Izuku turned off the TV. While he was happy that people were in support of him now, the Red Hood might be an issue. Izuku had trained his body for years to fight villains without a quirk. Whoever this Red Hood person was likely did not have the same training and was just inspired by his actions. Meaning that he was responsible for her. Endeavor being gone didn't surprise him. While the number 2 hero said he was going on vacation, Izuku knew that he just wanted to get away from his prying eye and try to figure out how to escape his grasp. All Might was still recovering, so that was the reason for his vacation. But what concerned him most was the number of heroes who had been convicted recently. You okay? You look troubled. Melissa noted. Something is going on, Izuku said. The amount of heroes convicted in the last week is abnormal. Even with our efficiency, we shouldn't have been able to get so many of them this fast. So you think someone is setting them up? Melissa said. Commissioner Naomasa has interrogated most of them himself, and with his quirk lying is impossible. And due to his closeness with Uncle Might we know we can trust him. Yes. But all this seems a bit sudden. Naomasa wasn't acting like this before and then one day he suddenly says all this. Izuku said. Izuku looked at the computer, pictures of all the pros who had recently been arrested plastered on the screen. Wait, Izuku said, coming to a realization. I think I found Dash. Before Izuku could finish, the crime alarm went off. Izuku sighed. Looks like he would have to focus on this later. Later in the city. Izuku couldn't believe his eyes. Ryuko Tatsuma Akaryukyu, the dragon hero, was currently rampaging through the city. Something is definitely wrong here. Izuku thought. Ryukyu was a hero in the top 10 and unlike Endeavor she actually deserved it. It made no sense for her to do something like this. Izuku shook his head. Stop her first, investigate later. Oracle put the Batwing into attack mode, Izuku said. On it, Melissa said. Suddenly the Batwing became visible and started shooting rockets at Ryuko. Ra! Ryukyu roared. The missiles barely did anything, but they did catch her attention, and the dragon hero took to the sky in pursuit of the Batwing. The Batwing went straight up with Ryukyu right behind it. After ascending high enough, the Batwing suddenly shot out a rope from behind, ensnaring her wings. Rah! Ryukyu roared as she fell to the ground fast. Well, you know what they say, Melissa said. The bigger they are dash, crash, the harder they fall. Izuku finished. Ryukyu hit the ground hard, knocking her out and reverting her to her human form. Putting the Batwing back into stealth mode, Melissa said. The Batwing cloaked itself once more, and in a matter of seconds it was almost impossible to see. I'm going to go to investigate, Izuku said. Good idea. Ryukyu doing something like this is completely out of character, there has to be something more to this. Melissa said. Izuku was about to glide down, but suddenly he heard police sirens. The police. How could they have gotten here so fast? Izuku thought. DMN it. Melissa cursed. Looks like we can't investigate. Better head back to the cave so we can what? What's wrong? Izuku asked. There's another crime close by, Melissa said. Looks like today will be a busy day, Izuku said. A few days later. Izuku knocked out the last thug in the warehouse. That's the last of them. Melissa sighed. Izuku took a knee. He was tired. The last few days had been hell for him and Melissa. Crimes had been popping up left and right, not just from villains but from heroes too. What was even stranger was that heroes rarely ever showed up to stop them or help, but whenever he finished fighting, the police would always show up before he could investigate the attackers. Almost as if they knew the crimes were going to happen and were waiting on him to stop them. Maybe if we're quick then we can actually try and investigate this time, Melissa said. Before Izuku could say anything he heard footsteps. Never mind. Melissa sighed. Izuku looked up and saw that it was not the police. It was the water Hosu duo. Oh. Never mind again. I'm sure they won't mind if we take a look around. Melissa said cheerfully. For a second. Just a second. Izuku lowered his guard. Then he realized. Heroes have been randomly attacking people, likely not of their own volition. That means, before Izuku could finish that thought, water was violently shot into his mouth faster than his mouth guard could rise. Izuku struggled to try and free himself of the water, but Hosu made it impossible for him to breathe. Izuku! Melissa shouted as she searched for a way to free him. Batwing. No, they were inside. Taser function. No, the water was being controlled by Hosu, meaning that it wasn't touching them. Izuku felt himself getting weaker and weaker as he slowly drowned. Suddenly a knife flew into Hosu's back, making him lose control of the water. Gah! He shouted in pain. The two heroes looked in the direction where the knife was thrown but saw nothing. Then Mizu felt a sharp pain before falling to the floor unconscious. Behind her was a girl in a red hoodie and jeans. Hosu took some of the water off the ground, forming them into spikes before sending them at the girl. She narrowly dodged them, running towards Hosu with a knife in hand ready to strike. Hosu made a dagger out of water and blocked the oncoming knife. The two blades clashed as the two engaged in a knife fight that, from the looks of it, Hosu had no chance of winning. The girl grabbed Hosu and threw him to the ground before giving his head a sharp kick, knocking him out. Izuku meanwhile just finished coughing out all the water in his chest. Batsy! The girl cried out in a familiar voice. She ran towards Batman and helped him to his feet. You okay, Batsy? Said the girl. I'm fine, Izuku said. This must be Red Hood. But why does she sound so familiar? Wow! This is almost exactly how we met the first time. But reversed. The girl said. Izuku looked up at her to see that Red Hood was none other than Toga Himiko. Himiko, Toga. Izuku said, surprised by her presence. Toga pouted. I told you to call me Himiko. You're the Red Hood. Izuku was shocked. Yup. Toga said happily. How do you like my name? I really like the color red. Izuku, are you okay? Melissa asked. I'm fine, Oracle, Izuku said. Oh, thank God. Melissa said. Hey. Are you talking to someone? Toga asked. So what are we gonna do with her? Melissa asked. Izuku sighed. Get the Batmobile. I'm taking the duo to the cave and taking her home. Hee hee. Toga laughed nervously. Well, I don't really have a home, so. Izuku froze. What? Yeah, my parents were really upset when they found out I was doing this, and they told me to stop. Toga explained. So I stood up for myself, they tried to beat me, I fought back and they disowned me. Yup. It's on the record. Melissa said after searching up Toga's family. Izuku stood there in shock. He had no idea what to do. He sighed. I'm the one who gave her that advice. I'm the reason she's in this situation. I need to take responsibility. The Batmobile arrived, stopping in front of the warehouse. Can you help me move them? Izuku asked her. Okay. She said cheerfully. After dragging Mizu and Hosu into the Batmobile's back seats, Izuku turned to her. Would you like to come with me? At speed so fast Izuku's well-trained eye had trouble keeping up. Toga launched herself at him, getting her face a bit too close to his. Yes. She answered. Yes, 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 yes. Wow. She's acting like you just proposed. Melissa snarked. Looks like we got a fangirl on our hands. Izuku backed up quickly and pulled a BLNDFLD out of his belt. Put this on, Izuku said. I know it might be a bit suspicious, but okay. Toga said, taking the BLNDFLD and putting it on with no hesitation. This girl is definitely an odd one. Izuku thought. Later at the Batcave. Wow. Wow. Whoa. Toga shouted as she looked all around the cave. You actually live in a cave. A really cool cave. A really big cool cave. So why did you bring her here? Melissa asked. She was concealing her identity by wearing a bat cowl she had made for herself. Well, I couldn't just leave her there. Izuku defended. I had to do something with her. Well, then you can keep her busy while I analyze the duo, Melissa said as she went back to the Batcomputer. Suddenly, static started to appear on the Batcomputer's monitor. What? Melissa cried in shock. Good evening, Batman, Melissa Shield. Said a distorted voice coming from the Batcomputer. Who are you? How did you get into our system? Izuku barked. Today, I am your ally. You may call me, Anarchy. The voice said. I am here to deliver some information to you. And what is that information? Melissa asked. As you know, something has taken control of the minds of villains and heroes alike. Anarchy said. And they've been using that control to keep us busy, so we can't figure out who's behind this, Izuku said. That's correct. They've been doing the same thing to Nizu and have already taken control of the commissioner. Anarchy said. However, they don't know about me. So I have been able to perform some investigations, and would you like to guess what I found? That a strange pollen was the cause of the mind control, Izuku said, having already found this out. Correct. I also discovered the source. Anarchy said. This new flower only being sold at this specific shop. So people are buying flowers from that shop, getting mind controlled and buying more flowers and giving them to other people. That's how it's been spreading. Izuku hypothesized. So evil flowers are controlling everyone. Toga said. Most likely. Anarchy said. I've already investigated the shop and I know what's the cause of all this. Dr. Pamela Isley, Melissa said. Yes. How did you know? Anarchy asked. There have been a string of disappearances involving people with plant quirks, Melissa said. I haven't had too much time to investigate it, but I do know that it all started with Dr. Pamela Isley, an American scientist that came to Japan to work on a project. She went missing soon after. She is indeed the one behind this, however, her quirk seems to have been heavily enhanced. Anarchy says. I've tracked down her location and I'm sending one of my allies to assist you. When should I send him? 3 days, Izuku said. We'll need time to prep. Very well. Anarchy said. The static disappeared and on the screen was the location that Anarchy had mentioned. So does that happen often? Toga asked. It shouldn't happen at all, Melissa said, taking off her mask. Well, looks like I won't need this. Wow. You're that Melissa Shield girl. Toga said. I saw you on a bunch of magazines. I thought you looked cute, so I remembered you. See, cute. Melissa blushed. Yeah. Don't you think she's cute, Batsy? Toga asked Batman. Yes, Izuku said bluntly. But Melissa's looks aside, we need to get working. Alright. Melissa, who was now beet red, responded. Also, now that Lady Melissa's identity is exposed, may I come out? Asked Alfred, who was standing in the shadows. Oh my God, you have a butler. Toga gasped as she ran over and inspected him. You never answered me before. What are we going to do with her? Melissa asked. We need allies we can trust, Izuku said. So, for now, she can help. And after that? Melissa asked. Izuku looked at Toga, currently pestering Alfred. We'll see. 3 days later. After 3 days of prep, the attack on Isley was finally ready to begin. The location was a large abandoned factory. As Izuku crawled through the vents, he saw something big. In the center of the factory was the biggest plant bud he had ever seen, and around it was several people seeming to do nothing but wave their arms around it. Those are the missing people, Melissa said over the comms. They must be helping that thing grow with their quirks. I see, Izuku said. Do you have eyes on Isley? Not yet, Melissa said. Melissa took control of one of the robins and made it fly around the factory until she found her. Clad in nothing but a jacket and underwear made of plants, Pamela Isley sat at the top floor, watching things progress below from a chair made of plants. She was surrounded by pros, all of whom were most likely mind-controlled. Death Arms, Kamui Woods, Rock Lock, and even Bakugo. Found her, Melissa said. Be careful. She's surrounded by pros. Bakugo's there too. Just like you predicted. Will do, Izuku said. Izuku crawled his way to the top floor, in the vent right above Isley. Good. Isley cooed. Keep working, my darlings. Izuku burst out of the vent right above Isley, intent on attacking her. But before he could fall onto her, a vine came up and smacked him away. Izuku recovered mid-air and landed on his feet. My. It's about time you showed up, Batman. Isley said. You were expecting me, Izuku said. Of course. You are the world's greatest detective. Isley said. All I could do was stall you. Then you knew I was going to take you down, Isley, Izuku said. Isley gave a stuck giggle. Please, call me Ivy. The old me is gone, and the new me is ready to take control. Now puppets, why don't you welcome our guest? The heroes all started running at him, with Bakugo blasting past them, lunging at Izuku. Izuku threw a pellet at Bakugo, which exploded into foam, trapping Bakugo within it. Bakugo fell to the ground and tried to use his quirk to escape, but after just a few bests he couldn't use his quirk. Flashback. What is this? Melissa asked, looking at the blueprint. It's a foam that will absorb explosive fluids and render them inert, Izuku explained. Why are we making this? Melissa asked. This is for fighting Bakugo, so why are we making this now? Isley seems to targeting me, Izuku said. She's been trying to keep us busy and even took control of the water Hosu duo. So she's likely expecting me to show up. The media figured out that Kaken and I were involved in the Killer Croc operation, so she'll likely take control of him to combat me. And even if that's not the case, Kaken is a powerful hero in training, so you'll probably want him to guard her even if he had no connection to me. I see, Melissa said. Well then, I'll get to work. Back to the present, the other three heroes charged at him. Izuku threw out 5 batarangs that were stopped in mid-air by Rocklock. The three kept running, and when they got close enough, Batman contacted Melissa. Oracle. Set them off. Boom. The batarangs exploded, taking out Kamui and Rocklock. Death Arms was only injured and kept charging at Izuku. Izuku took out another pellet, and when Death Arms was about to hit him, he threw the pellet in Death Arms' face, unleashing the sleeping gas. Death Arms staggered back, before falling to the ground unconscious. Good thing their brains are not at 100% due to the mind control, Melissa said. Otherwise beating them would have taken longer. Ugh. Ivy groaned. Worthless all of you. Then vines came out of the ground and wrapped Izuku up. Gah, Izuku grunted as he tried to escape. Well, that was easier than I thought, Ivy said with a knowing smirk. Well. It looks like I'm defeated. Izuku said. Why don't you tell me, your entire plan and how you got so powerful? Ivy burst out laughing. What an amusing performance. As a reward, I will comply. Wow, that actually worked, Melissa said in slight surprise. Guess you were right. Villains love to monologue. You see. For so long I had been weak little Pamela, the girl who talks to plants. Ivy explained. For years it was just me and my babies. And for years I watched in horror as man trampled Mother Nature, and I was the only one who could hear her scream. One day a man approached me. He said he could give me power beyond anything I could ever imagine. I said yes, and well, you can see the results. Ivy pet some of the plants around her to demonstrate her point. Now Mother Nature will take back what rightfully belongs to her. With this, Ivy said, pointing to the bud. When this flower blooms, its pollen will spread all across the city, putting everyone under my control. Then I will use them to destroy this city, and then the next and the next, until all of civilization is annihilated. I see, Izuku said. Well, thank you for your cooperation. Now. Flashback. Izuku and Toga waited on a rooftop a few miles away from the factory. This is boring. Toga groaned. Patience, Hood, patience, Izuku said. We're waiting for Anarchy's agent. Izuku, Melissa said. We don't even know who this Anarchy guy is. He could be the one behind this for all we know. He's not, Izuku said. I already have a clue as to who he is and what he's about. And I already know who his agent is. Is that so? Izuku and Toga looked behind them to find Stain standing there. Stain! Shouted both Toga and Melissa. Izuku, you can't be serious. Melissa said. This guy is a serial killer. We can't work with him. In most situations, I would agree with you, Izuku said. But with Isley controlling an unknown amount of the hero community, we need people we can trust. And he's someone we can trust? Melissa asked. He's someone who isn't under Isley's control, and for now that counts as trustworthy, Izuku said. And if you have any more arguments, just imagine what would happen if All Might fell under her control. Any argument or counterpoints Melissa was going to make died as she imagined that nightmarish scenario. I don't like this, Melissa said. Neither do I, Izuku said. Do you mind telling me how you knew I was coming? Stain asked. Simple. Izuku diverting his attention to him. After a few months of you being active, you suddenly disappeared. Many people thought that you died, but cold cases of prose heroes dying said otherwise. My hypothesis is that you allied yourself with someone and that your goals became more focused. After Anarchy showed up, I figured that as anyone's goals lined up with your own, it's someone who calls themselves Anarchy. Heh. Looks like you're just as skilled as he said you would be. Stain said. So. Are we gonna do this or not? Back to the present now. Izuku shouted. Nothing happened. Now. Izuku shouted again. Still, nothing happened. Ivy laughed once more. Were you perhaps expecting someone? Well, it's very rude for your friend to keep you waiting. Stain darling, come out. And with that Stain walked out from behind Ivy. What? Izuku said. How? My plants tell me everything, Ivy said with a smirk. So it wasn't very hard to find him sneaking around. All it took was a single kiss, and he became my newest plaything. Now Stain, kill him. Stain took out his swords and lunged at Izuku.